progress isn't about keeping up. It's about what you create and how far you can take it. The next era of AI belongs to builders. Microsoft Foundry is the platform for developers to build. From single agents to task forces of agents in production, it's flexible, modular, and cross-cloud. It's a broad, open, interoperable foundation to create and scale trustworthy AI apps and agents. Here, builders access the widest selection of models on any cloud. OpenAI, Claude, Mistral AI, Llama, Cohere, and beyond. You can benchmark, route, and optimize model performance in real time. And with Foundry IQ, your agents seamlessly connect to your business context from Files, M365, Fabric IQ, and the web, all grounded securely with user permissions and enterprise controls. Foundry enables agents to act with over 1,400 tools, providing rich integrations with users and your work. Deploy your agents directly into Teams and Copilot and extend their capability with custom tools and workflows across your application and business systems. Microsoft Foundry delivers developers a centralized control plane for fleet-wide observability, security, and control at cloud scale, so you can monitor, protect, and improve every agent with confidence. With real-time tracing, evaluations, and alerts, plus continuous defense powered by Microsoft Security. Run anywhere, from the cloud to the edge, on infrastructure purpose-built for AI. It's an open cross-cloud platform, a production line for building the next generation of AI apps and agents. Microsoft Foundry, the AI app and agent factory.
Please welcome Corporate Vice President, Microsoft Foundry, Yina Arenas.
Hola, San Francisco. I'm so glad to be here. Let's talk about AI. AI is no longer a future promise. It is here. It's unlocking creativity, productivity, and innovation at a scale that we've never seen before. And every organization is asking the same questions. How do we turn AI into real differentiation? How do we actually get ROI from AI? Do we buy? Do we build? Do we do both? Well, frontier organizations focus on building what makes them unique, leveraging the platforms for speed, security, and governance. Leading organizations are already doing this, building AI-powered experience that set them apart and generate new value. Ralph Lauren, Harvey AI, Coca-Cola, BMW, they are shaping the future, not waiting for it. This is what frontier organizations look like, with AI at the core of their business. So what does it mean to be a frontier organization? It means that you're not just adopting AI, that you're shaping it, that you're building solutions that are secure, scalable, and deeply integrated into your business. And that requires more than a model. That requires a platform. And today, we're going to show you how Microsoft Foundry is the platform that empowers you to build AI-powered solutions for your most critical business needs. It's the one-stop shop for building and operating AI at scale, whether it is agents or applications in a secure, flexible, and enterprise-ready way. Now, Foundry is the platform for developers and engineers. Foundry isn't just one product. It's actually an integrated stack. From Foundry models to give you the best choice for the best models in the market without vendor locking. With Foundry agents for planning, retrieving, acting, and orchestrating. Foundry IQ for retrieval and knowledge. Foundry tools for action with over 1,400 connectors. And machine learning for model customization. Of course, we have all of that wrapped up in a control plane for governance and lifecycle management. No other platform brings all of these pieces together in a single and integrated way like Foundry does. Foundry seamlessly integrates across the Microsoft ecosystem for developers across their favorite tools and their trusted enterprise systems. And because it's modular and interoperable, you have the choice to select the components you need and build without the fear of vendor lock-in, with native support for standards like MCP, A2A, and OpenTelemetry. Now, what sets Foundry apart from any other AI platform, it is its enterprise readiness. It is not just uptime, it's predictable performance with enterprise SLAs. It is not just security, it is identity, compliance, protection built in. It is not just flexibility, it's full control of your storage, your data, your search, your policies. It's advanced AI with model routing, content safety, context engineering, all integrated across the Microsoft Cloud. That is enterprise DNA in every layer. Foundry isn't just ready for business, it was built for it. And nothing demonstrates enterprise readiness like real-world adoption. Microsoft Foundry is already proven at scale. Foundry powers every single applied AI product that we built at Microsoft. And it's also already used by over 80,000 organizations that are delivering real impact and ROI. Speaking of ROI, Forrester Consulting actually found that building with Microsoft Foundry drives measurable impact. Most customers report actually increases in productivity and improved customer experience. While we're in the early innings of AI, we're already seeing real impact at scale. Now, if you don't have an in-house team to build these solutions, there are partners like Accenture, Capgemini, Wipro, EY, Infosys, and more that are ready for you to help you in this journey, to help you build differentiated solutions leveraging Microsoft Foundry. Okay, let's break down what makes Foundry the AI platform of choice. It is simple, it's trusted, and it's powerful. It's also the frame that we're going to use for our session today. Let's start with simple. During the session, we're going to build a few agents for Sava. Now, you all know Sava is our famous sporting clothing retailer. And we're going to start with a service agent. With Foundry, I can go from idea to working agent in just minutes, not months. Let me show you. I'm here in the newly designed Foundry UI. And the thing that I love the most about it is that with just a single click, I can start creating an agent. I'm going to call it the Sava Service Agent. And just like that, I'm going to be taken to the agent building experience. Here I can select from a variety of models, and I can give it instructions for my agent so that it can execute on as I want it to. Then I'm going to connect it to a set of tools. And in this case, I'm going to add Bing Search so that I can bring in market information. And then I'm also connected to SharePoint so that it can ground on my corporate data. And just like that, I have an agent that is grounded in both public and private data, and I can ask it to bring us on some information about it. And not only I have the ability to create this agent and see it here in the Foundry experience, we've also built in the capability to preview the agent in the web. So I'm going to preview my agent. And it's going to show up that experience that I can share right there with my team as well. So we see this one came through. This one is going to also bring in the response. And in addition to doing that, I can publish my agent directly from the Foundry portal into Microsoft 365 and Teams. It will take in doing some of the packaging of that agent. I've already done that for that. And then it's going to show up in the Microsoft 365 Copilot experience. Right here is my Sava Service Agent. And I can interact with it in the Copilot experience just like I do with any other agent. So just like that, it is so simple to build an agent in Foundry. It took me less than a couple of minutes to do it. Now, one of the hardest challenges on building with AI is curating the right context. And this is what Foundry IQ delivers. It's our new engine for automated context engineering, giving agents the right information securely and at scale. IQ connects across all of your enterprise data, whether it is structured data from SharePoint, from Fabric, from wikis, or unstructured data, I made a mistake there, from SharePoint or from the web. It goes beyond search, and it plans queries, it decomposes them, it breaks them into complex questions, federates across data sets, and delivers permission-aware context. And with Purview and Entra integration, security and compliance are built in. Another capability of Foundry IQ is agent memory, and it enables agents to retain context across interactions and is partitioned for each user. Now, agents shouldn't just talk, they should act. And Foundry Tools helps transform agents from chatbots into operators. We provide a set of pre-built AI skills like speech, language, translation, and more, and an additionally over 1,400 different connectors to services like SAP, ServiceNow, Workday, and without having to do any custom code. And if you need to connect to your own services, it is very easy to wrap any API as a tool using MCP or OpenAPI. Now let's show how to build another agent. This time we're going to be using Foundry IQ and tools. And for that, let's welcome Marco.
All right. Hello, everybody. And thank you, Yina, for having me up here. I'm Marco, and now you built a pretty simple agent there with Foundry. I'm going to do something a little bit fancier. So I'm going to build an agent for our in-store kiosk. Now, to do this, well, we're going to need a couple of things. I'm going to have to give this agent a little more IQ. So let's talk about Foundry IQ. So what do we mean by Foundry IQ? What's this about? Well, what it really is, it allows you to create a knowledge base, like this one here. And a knowledge base is an amalgam of different knowledge sources. So you see in this one, I already have an Azure Blob Store. I've already linked it to OneLake. There are lots of other sources that I can link it to, as you said, like Search and SharePoint. I could even add a Fabric IQ in here, let's say. And so now I can just add all of those knowledge sources to my agent like this. So just like that, I have added all of these different sources of knowledge without cluttering up my agent's context window. Now I also need a couple of tools, and we have in Foundry now this new tool catalog. And this tool catalog comes with a whole bunch of pre-built tools that I can use, but I can also add my own custom tools, as Yina mentioned earlier. In fact, I did earlier add some custom tools, so I did connect this to my image creator tool, which is going to create an image. I think I'm going to add my Zava running site as well. It allows you to track your runs, and that's going to play nicely into our kiosk application. And finally, I would like to give this agent some memory so that it can remember its interactions with customers from before. Now, I have connected this agent to a fancy website. And so this is our kiosk website. I'm going to customize this. I'm going to say, make me a custom marathon shirt, like so. And already it remembers who I am, it remembers what my time was in my marathon. I'm going to say yes, and it will call my image creator over here. Now that can take a moment, and so for that reason I did preload this. And there we have it. That's what it ends up looking like. That is my fancy kiosk agent.
There you go.
Thank you, Yina.
Thank you, Marco. OK, we talked about how simple it is to get started. Now, let's go to our next chapter. AI without trust is a liability. Foundry makes trust foundational, not an afterthought. And to show you, let's welcome Sarah Bird to the stage.
As you heard in the keynote, building trustworthy AI is a team sport. Everyone has a role to play. IT ensures clear access and identity controls. Security addresses new and evolving threats. And developers build and maintain AI systems that are safe and secure. But what it means to do this is changing. So let's double-click on the emerging role for developers and what they need to do to build trustworthy AI systems. There are 4 essential pieces we find for building trustworthy AI systems. The first is controls, including runtime guardrails. The second, observability, enables us to understand system behavior before and after deployment. The third, security, integrates key security primitives like identity and threat detection. And remember, this isn't about building a single agent. It's about managing at scale across your entire AI estate. That's why we're introducing Foundry Control Plane that gives developers the tools to build trustworthy AI. As a builder who's worked in AI for a long time, I'm thrilled to have a one-stop shop that lets me build with confidence, knowing that trust is built in from the beginning. You heard Yina talk about the service agent. connecting powerful external knowledge like Bing with internal knowledge bases like SharePoint, so the agent can answer questions with the right context. But as this agent moves across internal and external boundaries, you need to inspect content so that tools prevent risk from entering into your system. You need to protect sensitive data from leaking out, and you need to keep agents on task. To help with this, we've built new runtime controls into Foundry. Let me show you how they work. So here I have the agent that Marco was working on. And I want to make sure that this is really working as expected. So I'm going to red team it a little bit. And Marco doesn't know this, but I've hidden a prompt injection attack in some of the data that's coming into the agent. And I'm going to try to use that to get it to reveal sensitive customer information. Let's see if this works. Got to make sure we're typing in the right spot. All right, let's ask, see what happens here. And it looks like this attack was successful. I am, in fact, getting out customer names and payment information. Definitely not something that I want my agent to be doing. So what can we do about this? This is where our agent controls come into play. And so I'm going to turn on guardrails for this system. So I'm going to create a new guardrail. And let's see, the first thing I want to do is I really want to block that attack that had been coming in. So I'm going to add a control for prompt injection attacks. And we're going to look at that coming in at the user input and the tool response. So I'll add that control. I also just want to block any sensitive data that's coming out. There's no reason that this agent should be doing this. So I can look at all of these pre-built categories. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to add blocks for that. And then finally, I want to make sure that this agent stays on task. It shouldn't be doing this other random things I didn't ask it to do. So I'm going to add a control for task adherence. And then I'm going to submit this, and I'm going to attach it here. And so now these controls are in our agent, so it's going to stop this behavior before it even occurs. So here, we're going to try this again, and this is the moment of truth because this is a live demo. And let's see what happens. Yes, okay, fantastic. So what you've seen here is that the system has now detected this problematic behavior and blocked it in real time, which is fantastic. And guardrails are great because they give you the confidence that your system is going to stay in bounds. But I want to make sure that my agent is always working as expected, not just staying in boundaries, but high quality with great relevance. And that's where observability comes in. Using Foundry, developers can evaluate and monitor agents to ensure quality and safety before and after deployment. So let's take a look at how this works. So coming back to my agent here, as I said, I've tested a little bit in the playground, but I don't think that's enough. So I'm going to set up some evaluations for the agent. And I'm going to create a new evaluation here. I don't have a data set. Amazing, Foundry is going to generate one for me, so that's great. And I'm going to select evaluation criteria. And I want to test this agent for everything. I want to make sure it's calling the right tools. I want to make sure that it understands intent, that the responses are relevant. I definitely want to test for all of those different risks after seeing that prompt injection attack. So I'm going to turn all of these on. I'm going to submit this. And it's going to start running. Now, this is testing my system against all these different dimensions so I can understand how it's behaving. And it takes a little bit to do that. So we're actually going to go and look at one that I ran just earlier this morning. And here's what you can see. Okay, the agent's doing pretty well on a bunch of fronts. So Marco's done a good job here. We've got great intent resolution, great coherence, all of that. But it looks like we have a little bit of work to do on tool call success. So I'm going to go back to Marco, and we're going to work on this before we deploy it. However, once we fix that, I don't want to just evaluate this once and be done with it. I want to make sure that I'm continuously monitoring the agent's behavior for these same metrics in production. So here I can go to Monitor, and I can turn on continuous evaluations. And continuous evaluations enables me to select all of those same categories. So for example, I'll pick one here. I'll check relevance. And I can select a model judge. And now it's going to sample this periodically 100 times per hour so I can make sure my system's staying on task. And if it finds anything that I don't like, I also want it to alert me, so I don't have to keep paying attention, but it can tell me if it dips below the success metrics that I want. So I'm going to turn this on. Now these are running, and I will know if the agent's behavior seems to drift in any way I don't expect. And with that, I can also here monitor things like the cost of the agent and how many tokens it's using, so I feel confident in what the agent is doing. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that trust is a team sport, and developers can't do this alone. We need security. So we've built on foundational security practices like identity management, threat detection, and response. And Foundry makes this teamwork seamless by integrating security tools directly into the developer environment. Let me show you how this works. So one of the most important primitives in security today is identity. We use identity to manage users and devices, and agents are no different. And so here you can see a list of all these agents I have running in production, and every one of these has an Entra ID that enables my IT team to manage them, just like users and devices. And if you want to add an additional agent so you can bring it under management, you can just register it here. Now, I showed you an attack earlier, a prompt injection attack coming into the system. And the great news is that Foundry blocked it. However, we know that if we give attackers infinite amount of time to try things, they might eventually find something. So we also want to make sure that we're not just blocking these, but we're investigating the threat actors. And so when I set that attack in the system, it actually alerted my security operations team in Defender so they can go and start investigating immediately. And over here, I can see that alert myself too. So I can see that the jailbreak attempt was blocked, and that alert is already a security category, and my security team's already investigating so that we can partner to keep our system safe and secure. So as you can see, these deep integrations between Microsoft Security and Foundry enable security teams and developers to collaborate naturally. We know that every organization doesn't use the same tools. That's what's great about Foundry being an open platform. We still want your developers and security teams to work together effectively, whatever tools they're using. So I'm very excited to announce that we are integrating Palo Alto Networks and Zenity, making Foundry the first AI platform with native security integrations across the ecosystem. Yeah, great partnerships. Building one trustworthy agent is great. But in a frontier firm, one agent isn't enough. We need dozens or even thousands. And I still want to manage these as effectively as a single agent. So let's look at how Foundry enables me to do this. So we saw our great control plane experience here a second ago. And this is my hub that tells me all of the agents I have running and everything that I need to do. So you can see I have hundreds of agents, more work to get to thousands. Some of them are successful. There's maybe something I can look into there. I can understand my ongoing costs. And I can get alerts to tell me where I need to pay attention. So we already talked about the security alert earlier. I can also see that some of my agents are starting to have evaluation alerts, like the one we set up earlier. So now I can go and dive in and figure out where the agent is going off track and improve the quality of it. Now this last alert here is highlighting places where agents are not aligned with my organizational policy. So I'm going to go in and investigate this. So I'll review in policy management here. And what I have is my organization has set a variety of policies for different runtime guardrails that they want in place. So for example, prompt injection attacks. We showed earlier why it's really important to have this guardrail on. So I can click here and actually see the violations, see all of the assets that are not aligned with the policy, and start going in to investigate so that I can keep my system safe and secure and running well every day. As an AI builder, I'm really excited to see these capabilities, but I'm not the only one. Customers like CarMax are already seeing tangible results. Foundry Control Plane is giving them confidence to manage their multi-agent architecture at scale. Through Foundry Control Plane, we're enabling developers not just to build agents, but to build agents that they can trust. Now let's welcome back Yina.
Alrighty. We saw trusted, now let's go to powerful. Powerful means choice without locking, agents that can actually operate, and integration from code all the way to production. And I'm going to show you and highlight 3 things that make Foundry a powerful platform. The first one is models. Foundry gives you the freedom of choice. Over 11,000 models, frontier, specialized, industry, open, all available through a single unified API, without any model locking. And of course, if a better model emerges, you switch instantly. No code review, no code rewrites. That's like really future-proofing AI. Now, we're proud to partner with OpenAI. In our Azure OpenAI service, you gain same-day access to models, industry-leading SLAs, flexible deployment options, and deep integration with Microsoft Foundry across every single service, empowering you to build agentic solutions at scale. But today, we're over the moon and excited about announcing the availability of the Anthropic Cloud models in Microsoft Foundry. Customers now have the access to Anthropic Cloud models, Sonnet 4.5, Opus 4.1, and Haiku 4.5, all of the models in the same Foundry experience. With Claude in Foundry, developers can access to new set of capabilities as well that are unique to our partnership, including new skills, web search, web fetch, custom research, as well as MCP-enabled tool calling through Foundry Agent Service. Now, as I talk to customers, a common question that I hear is, how do I pick the best model? Not every prompt needs the most expensive model. Model Router is there for the rescue. It evaluates each request in real time and then selects the best model based on the prompt, whether it's an OpenAI model, an Anthropic model, OSS model, or specialized models without changing your app code. Customers like Perficient, a global digital consultancy company, have already achieved over 85% reduction on latency and 15% improvement on quality using Model Router. And as you would expect, governance is built in with all of the data boundaries, safety policies, and audit trails by default. Now, when you need a custom edge, we offer fine-tuning with supervised fine-tuning, direct preference optimization, reinforcement learning, plus new synthetic data generation capabilities so that you can get it done in hours and not in weeks. And with our developer tier, you can tap into idle capacity and cut your training costs in half. Now, when you need AI closer to the edge, Foundry Local enables you to build and run powerful and secure, cost-efficient AI apps directly on devices. In addition to Windows and Mac, Foundry Local is now supporting Android in private preview. Now let's welcome back Marco to show us how the Saba team is using all of these capabilities into their solutions.
All right. Hello again, everybody. You may remember me from like 10 minutes ago, and I'm back. Well, Yina showed it on a slide, but I'm going to show it to you live. Here is the model catalog, now with 11,369 models. That's 3 more than yesterday because now these Claude models are in the house. Hallelujah for that. But you know what we also have here? Well, we also have this model router. Let's take a look at this. This model router is able to route between or among numerous different models, including the GPT models, but also including models like DeepSeek. It chooses, based on the complexity of the inbound prompt, which model to use on the fly. Now, you may not have noticed this, but when I was building my fancy kiosk thing before, I was using the model router as the backing model for my agents. So this model router can be used to back your agents in the Foundry Agent Service. Now, as usual, I made something fancy out of this. So let's try this model router a little bit. I'm going to give it a simple question. Do you have cleats? That's as simple as it gets, and we're going to let our model router go ahead and route that model, and it gave it to GPT-5 Mini. You can kind of see that down there. Now, if I give it a more complex question, this thing about canceling membership, well, that went to the full GPT-5 chat. So this agent is pointing at the model router, and the model router is routing these prompts accordingly to the correct model. Now let's say that instead you'd like to use a custom model, one that is customized for you. You want to fine-tune it, and as she said, we do support fine-tuning. Now let's say you want to do this fine-tuning, but you don't have the data to do it. Well, now we have synthetic data generation for fine-tuning. And so here I am going to create some synthetic data. Now, you do have to give it something. You have to give it some information to work with. So I am going to give it this markdown file I got with a corporate overview of Zava and our products and stuff like that. So I'm going to load that in there. So you see I got my corporate overview. I select how many samples I want it to make, and I choose a generator model in here. That'll be the model that'll generate my synthetic data for me. I press generate, and off we go. I will have generated for myself a synthetic data set for fine-tuning.
Now let's talk about local.
Let's talk about local. Now, I have here my handy-dandy Android phone. And in fact, I built this myself. This is my first ever Android application. Never built one before. Thank you, GitHub Copilot. So I did build this, and I built it with Foundry Local. Now, Foundry Local can do model inferencing directly on device. And Foundry Local supports Windows and Mac, but now it also supports Android. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn this thing in airplane mode. That's right. And I'm going to open this up. I'm going to ask it a question. And this is going to do this inferencing right on this device. It's actually, there we go. I'm using actually the Qwen 2.5 model in this case on this device. And it's able to answer this question based on the grounding data I gave it to our products. That's Foundry Local for Android.
Alrighty, next up, let's talk about agents. Foundry Agent Service is Azure-backed runtime to build, host, and scale agents. I'm excited to announce that we're bringing new capabilities like built-in memory, multi-agent workflows, and hosted agents with observability, guardrails, and SLAs baked into the agent service. This means that if you've built agents in a framework like, for example, LangGraph, now you can host all of your agents in Foundry and get evals, observability, and control. Speaking of frameworks, if you need code-level control, Microsoft Agent Framework is the open-source framework that we have that is production-ready. It runs anywhere and then snaps into the agent service for hosting, telemetry, and governance. Provides identity and flows identity through with Purview and Entra integration. So trust travels with your agent. Enterprises are already using these capabilities to work. So let's see how Lufthansa is doing this at scale. Let's roll the video.
We at Lufthansa Technik maintain aircrafts and their components and their parts and the engines. Now, if you look at a modern aircraft, it is a highly complex asset. There is no person in the world able to tell which sequence of tasks need to be done. When you look at the technology that the three of us, the three partners, Microsoft, Lufthansa Industries, and Lufthansa Technik realized, they actually made it possible to bring a lot of complex information, specific information of the airline business in one location, a graph database. And today, we are lucky to say that the major bit is solved.
So the Microsoft Agent Framework was a perfect fit for us to, in the beginning, quickly iterate and try out new approaches, but now on the other side, also it allows us to scale up these LLM use cases and really come to a more production-ready system.
The technology that was developed, and Wingman is part of it, allows us to be far more efficient. For the airlines, there's a big advantage. If they need less aircrafts for maintenance or less spare parts, it is a big cost advantage and a sustainability advantage.
That is frontier transformation at work. Now let's see how Zava team can build using the same technologies.
All right. Now, what we're going to take a look at now is the new workflow capability that is in Foundry, because any real-world set of agents is going to have this kind of deterministic logic that stitches together your agents. So here, you see I have a few different agents, like this Zava D365 one, that are linked together with this deterministic logic here. that decides when to set variables, when to set messages, and things like that. One of these agents, though, is not like the other ones. Let's zoom in on this guy right here, this proposal writer. So what I have here is a marketing set of agents that is building campaigns for me and stuff. One of the agents is a proposal writer. It's not like the other ones because it's a hosted agent. This is actually written in LangGraph. So now, with hosted agents, you can build agents with really any orchestration framework like LangGraph and still host it in the Foundry agent service and use it just like any other Foundry agent. So when we fire this thing up, we're going to see all these different agents come to life over here. And again, for the sake of time, I did preload this, and it's able to make my campaign and make an Instagram post right out of it, just like that.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you all.
All right. Being at the frontier means giving AI developers the tools they need to have in order to build the latest with AI. And to show you what that looks like, I'm going to invite Amanda Silver to the stage.
Thank you, Nina. Hello, Ignite. All right, so for developers who live in code, I want to break this down for you. AI agents aren't just apps. They play by different rules. Traditional apps are built with procedural logic. They require manual updates, and they have rigid steps. And you have to be really explicit with the infrastructure. But AI agents are adaptive by design, and they work on probabilistic models that reason and plan and adapt. And developers, instead, focus on intent and signals loops and guardrails, not just endpoints. Building them requires orchestration, not just code. So we built the AI toolkit for VS Code to bring Foundry's power into your workflow. Inside your code editor, you can use natural language to explore and compare models. You can build agents and multi-agent workflows targeting Foundry. You can add observability with traces, telemetry, and eval hooks. And you can evaluate response quality and apply guardrails through your deployment. You know, great agents, they really need great data. So the toolkit also includes Jupyter notebooks and data prep tools to keep data sets, models, and evaluations aligned from the start. And together, this creates an AI-first development loop. So you can discover and test models as you're building. You can author agents and workflows and evals with GitHub Copilot. You can trace, debug, and evaluate with professional tools and deploy directly to Foundry's hosted agents orchestration layer, all within one Visual Studio Code experience. So with that, I'm going to just show you some of the 3 agents that we built a minute ago. So this is basically the Java customer-facing application, and what you can see here is this is just a normal application. But when I log in instead as the manager, you can see that it actually is a really intelligent back-end system. What's happening here is we have inventory, we have active suppliers, but you can also see that we have weekly insights that are AI generated. And you can see that this gives me some insights that let me plan for what should happen throughout the week as the store manager. So I understand the weather forecast. If it's going to be raining, maybe I need some umbrellas. If it's going to be super sunny, maybe I need some t-shirts out there. And you can also see the top selling products here. And then you can also get the local events. So what's happening here is that this is actually an AI-generated agentic model. Now, let me just pop to Visual Studio Code just to show you a little bit of how this is built. This is actually a fan-out, fan-in model. So if we come back to this, let me just scroll back here. You can see that we have the agent builder directly in the context of Visual Studio Code, and you can do this in the declarative way, describing your prompts just like you see here. Or you can also do it in a code-first experience. But then you can also see that we have the workflow visualizer here. Now, if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that this is actually showing you all of the analyzers that we had just talked about, the weather analyzer, the events analyzer, and the top-selling products. Now, the weather analyzer basically goes to the Open Weather MCP, and it actually asks that tool in the process of the workflow. The top-selling products looks at our inventory and our financial MCP, and the events analyzer is grounded in the public open web using the Bing grounding agent. And you can see that all three of these things are actually working together to be synthesized in a uniform agent at the bottom that's actually going to take those insights and surface them back into the experience. Now, one of the other things that you can see here is that this is also showing us, if we just look here for the top products, top selling products analyzer, you can see that this is actually taking advantage of one of the most recent capabilities in the latest agent framework, that we want to not just respond with general text that's unstructured, but that we actually want to use a specific schema so that it's easier for me as a developer to figure out how I synthesize them back into those insights that I want to be able to see. So that's how we built that first agent. Now let's go back to the tool experience, and let's go to the inventory. So if we go to the inventory, you can see that again, we are building an AI agent to help you analyze the inventory that you have in stock. Now, this is a great example of something that's really hard to do using traditional software development methods. And I can just expand this so you can see how it's going. Now, this is actually going, and it's looking at all of your inventory, and it's building, it's actually looking at the financial MCP data multiple times, and it's trying to create a synthesis of all of the inventory that you have and what are the top selling products so that it can help you understand as the store manager what you should be ordering next. Now this takes probably about 40 seconds to actually return. So I'm just going to show you a pre-built version right here. Now you can see the AI analysis that was summarized. But this is also a perfect example where you actually want to have a human in the loop of building the agentic workflow. So as you see here at the bottom, it actually asks you, based on the top moving inventory, what products do you want to purchase for the next week? As a store manager, because you know what's most likely to be able to move, you can actually get consulted as the expert and kind of work that in. So the next thing I want to show you is the pop-up store experience for the consumer experience. So one of the things that you can see here is I might say something like, I want to return the last item purchased. Let me make sure I typed that right. Purchased. That's okay. It's an AI. It can deal with typos. But this is a great example where you can actually use the capabilities of Foundry to deliver a better consumer experience for your users. Because in this case, it can take both the inventory data that you have on the back end, it can use that as the grounding knowledge, and then it can also combine that with web information, and you can also use the latest memory capabilities that we just introduced with Foundry today as well. So now let's go ahead and look at how this works behind the scenes. Now, Sarah showed you a little bit of how we have all of these monitoring and tracing capabilities, and she showed you a little bit about how we can see that the task completion might not be great or the task adherence might not be great, and so I actually need to continuously improve it. But building these evals might not be natural to people who are traditional software developers if they've never done agentic development before or AI-based development before. And so one of the things that we've worked on is making sure that GitHub Copilot can actually help you build these agents using the Visual Studio AI Toolkit. So all I need to say is just create evals for my agent. In this case, I don't want to use AI-based evaluators. And you can see what GitHub Copilot responds with. It actually produced for me 5 different evaluators that it thought was appropriate given the code that I was trying to implement. And it generated all of them and made changes into my code base. Now, we all know that just adding these things into your code base, the job is not done, because you might regress it on the next check-in that you make. And so we also want to make sure that it actually gets incorporated into your CI/CD loop. So let me just go here and show you the Zava customer agent that you just saw. And what you can see is that if I go to the actions, you can see that it's actually using the Foundry SDK for observability and evals to evaluate that capability. And it's adding directly into my CI/CD loop, it's adding that evaluation report. So that makes it really easy for me to continuously improve the agents that I'm building. So let's go back to slides really quickly. So Foundry has all of these great capabilities that are now available in your developer tools, but it also really gives developers the freedom to innovate. It's backed by our enterprise scale, security, and governance that we have in our Azure services, and that allows you to bring your business context that you're already using into these agents with 1,400 connectors that are supported by Logic Apps that you already know and trust that can allow you to integrate SAP and Salesforce and Dynamics 365 and more. And you can build and scale these multi-agent apps on secure serverless foundations using Azure Container Apps, durable functions, and that allows you to also have freedom in terms of the frameworks that you want to use. So you can use LangChain and CrewAI and LangGraph and LlamaIndex, as well as Microsoft's agent framework. You can also extend these capabilities the agentic capabilities in an API-first way. So using functions and API management, it makes it really easy to take any API and make it into a reusable MCP tool that your agents are capable of calling. And we also have centralized governance so that you can use API management and the Foundry control plane for unified policies across all of your developers so that you can have curation and visibility and cost control. This really delivers the innovation for developers that we're all looking for. We just want to have the freedom to be able to create something cool, but it also gives the enterprise governance without any kind of compromise. You know, with all of this, the craft of software development is evolving, from typing code to articulating intent. And when your source of truth is what you want to build, not just how it's written, AI becomes an amplifier. Developers evolve into orchestrators, designing specs, guiding agents, and validating the outcomes. It's not less creative, it's actually more creative. You spend less time wrestling with the scaffolding and the operations, and more time focusing on the ideas that matter to you and your organization. Developers are the ones that build the future. So with AI, we can build it faster, better, and it's going to be a lot more fun. All right, thank you, Ignite.
Thank you, Amanda. There you have it. Models that adapt, agents that operate, integration that scales. That's powerful with Foundry. From idea to impact without lock-in. Foundry gives you all of the enterprise capabilities that you need to move AI experiments to enterprise impact, securely and at scale and with a lot of speed. As I mentioned before, it's simple, trusted, and powerful. Now, we are also here to support your AI journey, helping you explore new use cases, envision strategy through workshops, and execute ready-to-use templates and resources. At every stage, we're committed to turning your vision into success. We have lots of sessions where you can dive deeper into all of the announcements that we have at the conference, and we'd love to hear your feedback and make sure that you connect with us at the booth as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great Ignite.